Hey everyone, welcome to another video. It's Simon Hurley from Inklips. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this acetate window card so you can have a fun opening in your card so it makes it look like your image is suspended in midair. It's so awesome, and today I'm using the Craftin' Desert Divas Winter Treat stamp set, and I'm going to be using that reindeer in the top right for today's coloring. So I've started off by inking up the reindeer using some Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'm going to stamp him down onto some 80-pound Neenah cardstock, and we're going to get ready for some Copic coloring here. So I'm using the Copic sketch markers today, and I'm going to be using various shades of brown for his face. I've learned a lot while using these Copics in the past year, and I wanted to just share a couple of tips in today's video for kind of how I use them really well, and how I find not to get that bleeding and some of those frustrating lines, and really how to blend them well. So I love to use Neenah 80-pound cardstock because it's a thinner weight, so you don't have to add a ton of ink onto it in order for it to actually blend your markers, because if you add a ton of ink onto the surface, it does bleed quite a bit. Trust me, I have tried to blend a Neenah 110-pound cardstock. It's not as successful on a lighter weighted cardstock because you don't have to add as much ink, is kind of what I found here. Also, when blending, you don't want to blend too much or work it too much. The blending will kind of happen on its own in a couple of minutes. You'll see that once this is dry, the blending has become much better than what you'll see right now. And even if you have some shades that are a little bit far off, like I'm using in today's video with these browns, they'll still blend really nicely after a little bit of time, so don't trash your projects if you're just started coloring and you really try to keep working the color in. And also, that's another way that some bleeding will happen if you try to work the color in too much. Also, stay away from the edges when you're coloring your colors onto your cardstock. I would go a little bit away from the edges, and it will kind of actually bleed into the edges a little bit, but it won't go outside of the edges if you kind of stay away from the edges just a little tiny bit while leaving a little white border, and in just a couple of minutes that will be filled in because these are alcohol markers, so they do move around a little bit on your paper if you don't heat set them or something like that. But they do dry very quickly. And also, I'm just going to use a ton of different shades to blend these in. I love the depth and dimension that Copics give, so I love using a bunch of different shades on each image to color that in. So I'm just using some darker shades and some lighter shades, and I'll have them all linked down below in the description of this video so you guys can follow along and coloring if you wish to. So I'm just going to finish up his jingle bells. Also, here's a tip. If your color is a little bit too bright, you put a gray over top of it. I'm just using a gray ink over top of that golden kind of yellowish color, and it tones it down to make it look more like a brass. So I'm going to fussy cut that out, and then I'm adding some Wink of Stella to his nose here, and also to some of the berries. I also think I added it to the jingle bells on his collar to make everything give it a little bit of a sparkle and shine without the glitter coming off. And then I'm going to be adding the fun part of this card and the more interactive piece to the card. So I've die cut a little circle window out of the front of my card base here, and I'm going to be adding an acetate piece of plastic packaging into here. It doesn't have to be super thick because the card will support it. And then I'm going to be taping my reindeer down, and I'm going to just add that onto the card there, onto that acetate window. Now, it just happened that that window that I had cut fit this reindeer really nicely. You're going to want to find a window that will fit your image super nicely. And I like how the reindeer was also touching the edges, so it kind of made it look like I cut it out of the edges and that there was a blank space there. So now I'm going to be doing some ink blending. I've been loving ink blending lately. It gives such a fun background and such a fun technique, and it's very unique in cards. So I'm going to be using some cracked pistachio ink for the top, and I'm going to kind of make a sky, so like the reindeer's kind of flying through in this winter season. So I'm going to be using cracked pistachio in the top. It's kind of a greenish, bluish mint color, and I'm dabbing off some of that color that is not needed onto a scrap piece of cardstock, and then we won't get any harsh edges while we're blending. The second color I'm using here is Peacock Feathers, and I'm going to blend that right into the cracked pistachio. You're going to want to take your time here. You can build up as much layers as you want, but don't try to add a ton of ink at one time, or you will get a lot of different harsh edges to your project here. And I'm also not adding ink all the way to the edge, just to leave kind of a white border here. I'm also just adding some salty ocean color to the bottom, and then I'm going to go back through all of my colors and just blend them out a little bit more. And like I said, really layer this up and get as dark of a color as you want. While layering, it really helps to just keep blending over and over. So now I'm just adding that inside of my card where I would write the message, that is on top of where I would write the message. And then I'm going to take a piece of craft cardstock here, and I'm going to just be inking it up with some vintage photo or walnut stain distress ink here. And I'm going to just be leaving some harsh edges, not really blending it into the cardstock, and you'll see why in just a minute here. Just make kind of a fun background, but still leaving some of that craft cardstock showing. So give it some variation, add some darker spots, some lighter spots, just give it some fun texture into this piece. You can also actually just add the ink pad down onto the cardstock and see what fun dimension you get like that. I just wanted some great dimension, and then I've die cut that out with the sentiment "Oh dear" with a Tim Holtz die set. And then I'm going to be adding those onto my card using some foam tape and adding some Wink of Stella onto the "Oh dear." That blue background also will give me a nice background in front of that deer, so it's a really awesome card today. I'm also adding some glossy accents to the deer's nose and his jingle bells as well, just to give it some fun dimension and some texture onto this card. So that basically completes the card for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I will leave links down below to all the supplies that I used in today's video in case if you're interested in purchasing any of them. I would also love if you guys could give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also if you would like, please subscribe down below. I would love if you could join the Inkclips family, and also you will be notified whenever I post a new video, so you will never miss anything. I really loved making today's suspended card, and I think it's such a fun idea for a clean and simple card with a really awesome twist and a hole in the center featuring your favorite images. You can swap that out with any stamps you have, and I think it's so much fun and a great idea. On screen right now I have two videos. The first one features some really fun Copic coloring, and the second one features another kind of really fun and active card. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up and stop over by my blog as well, inkclips.com, for much more information about this post and this card. I hope to see you guys there. Bye!